There we go.
All right, so go ahead and start playing. So I got a blind hill to the right, and I can have a straightaway to the left. Okay, when the front of my tractor reaches into the intersection, I'm going to start turning so I can put my truck in the left-hand lane. See a hazard coming. It's a white van. And I see another hazard at the top of the hill. Looking at the rate of speed of that vehicle. Headlights on for safety. Release the clutch until I feel that torque. And then release the brake. And then slowly release the clutch. Scan left. Scan right, and it's clear to the right. Move straight out and start turning down, hand over hand. Once I get the truck into the lane, scan left, back to the front. 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 Using cometary shifting, progressive shifting, we're going to go 4 to 5, 1100. Release the fuel first, move my hand second, and shift third. Clutch neutral, clutch gear selector up in 5. We're going to go 5 to 6 and 12. Release the fuel. Clutch neutral, clutch gear. Put on my right turn signal. Let it blink at least 4 times. And when it's safe and clear to do so, make a lane change to the right. Clutch neutral, clutch gear. Scan right, back to the front. 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 Scan left. All 18 tires in the lane, cancel my signal. I will now shift from 7 to 8 at 1400. Release the fuel first. Move my hand second. Put my foot on top of the clutch. Clutch neutral, clutch gear. And then we'll apply the fuel all the way down to the floor. And we're going to go from 8 to 9 at 1500. We can operate the vehicle 10 miles below the posted speed limit. Release the fuel first. Move my hand second. Clutch neutral, clutch gear. I will take 287 south toward Palestine. As I descend down the grade, the 4 steps of downshifting are brake, clutch neutral, rev to 1500, and then clutch gear. Brake to 1000. I will release the brake at 1100, clutch neutral, rev, clutch gear. Brake to 1000. Release at 1100. Clutch neutral, rev, clutch gear. Brake to 1000. Release at 1100. Clutch neutral, rev, clutch gear. Selector down. Now, I'm looking to the left. It's currently clear. Scan left, back to the front. Scan left, back to the front. Scan right, back to the front. Scan right, back to the front. Selector up. Speed limit is 45. I'm going to now increase my RPM up to 1500. 6 to 7 to 15. Release the fuel first and shift second. Clutch neutral, clutch gear. We're going to go from 7 to 8 at 1500 RPMs. Release the fuel first. Clutch neutral, clutch gear. And then accelerate. We're going to go 8 to 9 at 1500 RPMs. My thumbs are flat on top of the wheel. My thumbs do not wrap around the steering wheel. 8 to 9 at 1500. Release the fuel first. Move your hand second. Foot on top of the clutch. Clutch neutral, clutch gear. Traffic light is currently yellow. Scan left, back to the front. Scan left, back to the front. I'm going to make a right turn. Brake to 1000. Release at 1100. Clutch neutral. Rev to 15. Clutch the gear. Brake to 1000. Release the brake at 1100. Clutch to neutral. Rev to 15. Clutch to 7. Brake to 1000. Release at 1100. Clutch neutral. Rev. Clutch gear. Currently in 6th gear. It is clear to my left. I have a yield sign directly in front of me. Scan left, back to the front. Scan left, back to the front. Scan left, back to the front. Scan right, all 18 tires in the lane, cancel my signal. I would now perform a roadside emergency stop. I would check my mirrors, put on my right turn signal, and then downshift. Brake to 1000. clutch neutral, rev, clutch gear, selector down, clutch neutral, rev, clutch gear, check my mirrors to the right. I will now push in the clutch, followed by control brake. I will work this process left to right, cancel my right turn signal, put on my four-way flashers, put the truck in neutral, make sure the selector is down, release the clutch, pull the yellow brake valve, release the brake pedal. I cannot block any driveways or fire hydrants, and if I will be here for more than 10 minutes, I will set out 3 reflective triangles. I will now resume. I will work this process left to right. Left, I will cancel my four-way flashers, put on my left turn signal, place my foot on the clutch, press all the way down to the floor, activate the clutch brake. 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005. Right wall, 4th gear. I will now push in the red trailer air supply, thrust quickly and hold it. Once the air settles, I'll take my right foot, apply 10 to 15 pounds of controlled brake pressure, no more than 20. I will now release a yellow parking brake. I cannot roll back nor turn the steering wheel to the left. Release the clutch till I feel the torque and pause. Release the brake pedal and slowly release the clutch. I will now shift from 4 to 5 at 1100 RPMs. Release the fuel, clutch neutral, clutch gear. And because I'm in 5th gear, I will cancel my turn signal. I will now go from 5 to 6 at 12. Release the fuel first, clutch neutral, clutch gear. I will now go from 6 to 7 at 1300. Release the fuel first, move my hand second, clutch neutral, clutch gear. I will now accelerate. Speed limit on the road is 35 miles an hour. I will now go 7 to 8 at 1400. Release the fuel pedal first, put my hand on the gear selector, clutch neutral, clutch gear, and then accelerate. Left lane ends. Scan left, back to the front. My RPMs are currently at 12. Lane ends, merge right. I will now begin the downshifting process. Release the fuel, currently in 8th gear. Clutch neutral, rev to 15, and then clutch the gear. Brake to 1000. Release the brake at 1100. Clutch neutral, rev to 15, clutch the gear, selector down. Brake to 1000. Release the brake at 1100. Clutch neutral, rev, clutch gear. Currently at 5th gear. The road is curving directly to the right, so I will stay high side left in my lane. I will put on my turn signal at least 100 feet in advance. I will apply brake pressure, keep it close to 1000 RPMs. That way it does not over rev the engine. Scan right, back to the front. Scan right, back to the front. Scan right, back to the front. Push in the clutch, followed by control brake. I will now reset by putting the truck in neutral. Make sure the range selector is down. Right wall, 4th gear. Put on my right turn signal. I have 2 lanes going to the right with a 45 mile an hour speed limit, and I'm going uphill. I will then accelerate to 1500 and shift to the next higher gear. Scan right, back to the front. Once the front of my truck reaches the center of the intersection, start turning. I will then put the left side of my truck toward the left side of this yellow line. Looking at my right door convex mirror, I reach the crown, turn back toward the right, and then counter steer. Scan right, back to the front. Scan right, back to the front. Scan left, and once all 18 tires in the lane, I will now progressive shift from 4 to 5 at 1500. I will release the fuel first and then shift second. Clutch neutral, clutch gear, selector up. I will now go from 5 to 6 at 1500. Clutch neutral, clutch gear. I will now go from 6 to 7 at 1500. Release the fuel, clutch neutral, clutch gear. And once it settles on the transmission, apply the fuel all the way down to the floor. And I will go from 7 to 8 at 15, release the fuel, move my hand, clutch neutral, clutch gear, and then accelerate. I will go from 8 to 9 at 1500 RPMs. Speed limit is still 45 miles an hour. My speed limit is 35, release the fuel, Move my hand to the gear selector, clutch neutral, clutch gear. Now I'm going to change lanes. I will put on my turn signal when it's safe and clear to do so. Put on my turn signal, let it blink at least 4 times. Check the mirror. When it's safe and clear to do so, make a lane change to the left. Scan left, back to the front. 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 Scan right, all 18 tires in the lane, cancel my signal. My RPMs are currently at 1300. Scan right, back to the front. My speed is at 45 miles an hour. I'm approaching a downgrade, so I will be very mindful of my speed. Apply 10 to 15 pounds of controlled brake pressure to control my speed. I'm currently at 40 miles an hour. Scan left, back to the front. My RPMs are currently at 12. I'm going through a curve to the right, so I will stay high side left. And then it switches from the right to the left, approaching the speed at 35 miles an hour. I see a yellow traffic sign which tells me traffic merges is to the right. My speed is 35 miles an hour. I will put on my right turn signal. Traffic light is currently still green. And when it's safe and clear to do so, I will make a lane change to the right. And it's clear. Scan right, back to the front. Scan right, back to the front. Scan right, back to the front. Scan left, all 18 tires in the lane, cancel your signal. Currently at 1,000 RPMs. Approaching an intersection, I want to scan before, during, and after 150 feet. Scan left, scan right. 75 feet prior, brake. Right before the engine starts to lug, pushing the clutch, and come to a controlled stop. I will now reset the vehicle, put it in neutral, selector down, right wall, 4th gear. When a traffic light turns green, I will scan left and right first, before, during, and after the intersection. This is the best opportunity to soak up as much information that you can pertaining to the intersection. Identify vehicles, lanes, and so forth. Scan left, scan right. Release the clutch, release the brake. Accelerate to 1100 RPMs. Scan left, scan right. And then once my trailer goes through the intersection, I will scan left and right again. Scan left, scan right, 4 to 5, 1100. Clutch neutral, clutch gear, selector up. 5 to 6 at 12. Release the fuel first. Clutch neutral, clutch gear. 6 to 7 at 1300. Release the fuel. Clutch neutral, clutch gear. Put on my turn signal, take Texas 31. Speed limit on the road is 35 miles an hour. Traffic light is currently red. All 18 tires in the lane, cancel my signal. By the time I reach the railroad track, I want to be in 5th gear or less. Brake to 1000. I will release the brake in 1100. Clutch neutral, rev, clutch gear, selector down, currently in 6th gear. Scan left, scan right. Brake to 1000, release at 1100, clutch neutral, right wall, rev to 15, and then clutch to 5. As I approach this railroad track with a non-hazmat load, scan left, scan right, before, during, scan left, scan right. And then once my trailer goes through the railroad crossing, and I would never shift, scan left, scan right. And then I will slow the vehicle down with the brake, followed by the clutch. I will reset, right wall, 4th gear, scan left, scan right, before, accelerate to 1100, scan left, scan right, and now begin my turn. I will place my tractor to the left side of the yellow line and straighten the wheel. Once I reach the crown, I will use a hand-over-hand technique to turn the vehicle and then counter steer. Scan right, back to the front. Scan right, back to the front. Scan left. Once I'm straight, I will cancel my signal and then shift. Approach the railroad track, scan left, scan right, before, during, scan left, scan right, And then once my trailer goes through the railroad crossing, scan left, scan right. I will release the fuel first and shift second. Clutch neutral, clutch gear. 5 to 6 at 12, release the fuel. Clutch neutral, clutch gear. 6 to 7 at 13, release the fuel first. Clutch neutral, clutch gear. 7 to 8 at 1400, traffic light is currently green. Scan left, back to the front. Release the fuel first. Move your hand second. Foot on top of the clutch. Clutch neutral, clutch gear. Scan left, back to the front. As I approach this intersection, I will scan 150 feet. Scan left, scan right. 75 feet, scan left, scan right. And then after, scan left, scan right. As I continue on through the urban area, I will scan left and scan right. Speed limit 35 miles an hour. Put on my left turn signal is clear. Scan left, back to the front. Scan left, back to the front. Scan left, back to the front. Scan right. All 18 tires in the lane. Cancel your signal. That is what we call the letter T in taking the path of least resistance. Identify the brake lights of the vehicle. Left lane was clear. Moved over to that lane. Speed limit is 45. I'm going to now shift from 8 to 9 to 1500. Release the fuel. Clutch neutral, clutch gear. By the time I reach that traffic light, I need to be in 5th gear or less. Currently at 45 miles an hour. I will start downshifting now. Brake to 1000. Release at 1100. Clutch neutral, rev, clutch gear, brake to 1000. Release at 1100. Clutch neutral, rev, clutch gear, brake to 1000. Release at 1100. Clutch neutral, rev, clutch gear, selector down. I need to be in 5th gear at least 100 feet before that traffic light. That way I can now focus on my turn. Brake to 1000, release at 1100, clutch neutral, right wall, rev to 15, and then clutch to 5. And that completes this demonstration of progressive shifting with commentary at the Swift Driving Academy. Thank you.